On this special 50 years of home video celebration, we're going to cover the history of home video formats and many other things, as we cover the history from Betamax all the way up to Blu-ray and 4K UHD. It's coming up after this special presentation. Hello everyone and welcome to the special presentation of 50 years of home media. That's right, it was 50 years ago this very month that the Sony Betamax would be released in North America. For those who are expecting that this video would be filmed and stuff, unfortunately that will not be happening. While filming this episode, unfortunately the audio for the shotgun mic crapped out. It was not plugged in properly or whatever. Unfortunately, long story short is, everything came out dead air. So that's why we're unfortunately doing this Audacity again. I do apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused for those that are nitpicking and stuff, but I did not want to have to refilm all that again just because the audio did not record. So again, I do apologize for any inconvenience. So it's enough talking. Let's get ahead and straight into the video. Of course, 1975 is when the Sony Betamax was released here in North America. Microsoft was just being founded by Bill Gates and Paul Allen respectively, and respectively, that was the only thing other than Pneumatic. Pneumatic was a little bit bulkier and many other things, and it really was not catch on by consumers. The LV-1901 console, of course, was released in 1975, and again at the time, you could only record tapes at B1 beta mode, or basically that was the speed they called it, B1 beta speed, where you can only record 30-minute tapes or 60-minute tapes. There was no in-between, none of that, no 45, no 21, no 15. Basically, Beta 1 was used by many other folks around, and of course many other things. VHS, of course, would join the fray in 1970. 6 being released in Japan before RCA's engineers wanted to have a tape that could record a lane from an American football game. Eventually would get their way with releasing a tape, VHS tape, that would record up to 4 hours. It was at the LP speed. Now, the format voice, of course, would carry on throughout the 1970s and 1980s, with Magnetic Video, of course, being released, the first titles being released by Magnetic Video in 1977. Eventually, of course, there would be Laserdisc, eventually being test marketed in Atlanta, Georgia in 1978, before being released nationwide by the beginning of 1980. Throughout the 1980s, there would be formats, of course. CED would be released in 1981 called Capacitance Electronic Disc, and I'm using videos from previous videos I've made on this channel, or I've used what is CED videos just to show you visualization right now, fortunately. But yeah, CED didn't really catch on. It quickly died by 84, with the final titles being released on the format in 1986. Not much, of course, with CED. Laserdisc, meanwhile, would carry on throughout the 1980s with little to no big changes, basically. Laserdisc, of course, would eventually get stereo sound before VHS would, Dolby Surround, and eventually would get AC-free Laserdisc, which we'll talk about very shortly. Eventually, VHS would overtake Beta, and by 1988, the VHS had won, Sony had conceded, and released their first VHS players, with Video 8, of course, joining the fray in 1984, with backtracking a little bit, and of course VHS-C joined the fray in 1985. We now fast forward to 1995, Laserdisc, of course, still being used by consumers and mainly those with deep pockets and stuff. Eventually, the first AC-free Laserdisc would eventually be released at the beginning of 1995, with the first titles, of course, being Queer and Pleasant Danger, Stargate, True Lies, and a few other titles that would run up the year until 1995. Essentially, it was the first time a movie could be released in 5.1, after Batman Returns in 1992 was the first movie in 5.1 Dolby Digital when it was released in 1992. Now, of course, we jumped to 1996 with the release of DVD in Japan at the tail end of the year, before being released in March of 97 here in the States and Canada. Originally being test marketed in places before being expanded across the country to other places, and DVD taking over VHS completely overnight, basically. DVD, of course, being digital. It was the first time people could see a movie in widescreen if the people didn't have a Laserdisc player or knew what widescreen VHS tapes were, or basically anything like that. And finally, of course, PS2. First time I mentioned a game console in this video, but PS2, of course, was the second iteration of Sony's PlayStation, and of course it was had a DVD player built in. So cheapest DVD player at the time, basically $299. Well, the original price I think were around $1,000, I think. Eventually, Laserdisc would see its final releases being released at the tail end of 2000, with Bringing Out the Dead, with the Japanese titles being released in 2001, and then finally, of course, VHS biting the fray by the end of 2007. Of course, then leaves us to HDVD and Blu-ray. I was really young when this occurred, and basically little to no thing about the format wars other than my research. Basically, Xbox 360 had their own HDVD, but you had to have a separate adapter to play HD DVD movies, which I think is stupid. And then Blu-ray, on the other hand, was equipped with the PS3. So if you bought a PS3, you coughed up $699 for a PlayStation 3. You got a Blu-ray included if you bought it on day one. I think the movie was Talladega Nights, if I recall correctly. Check me, of course, in the comments. Eventually, Blu-ray 3D would be released in the tail end of the 2000s. Blu-ray Audio, HDVD died by the beginning of 2008 after all the other studios that were backing it jumped over the Blu-ray, and eventually would release 4K Ultra HD by the beginning of 2016. Of course, UHD, of course, is the dominant standard now, although most people still buy Blu-rays. I don't recall many people still buying DVDs unless they just don't have a Blu-ray player to begin with. So in part 2 of this special, we're going to cover my take on home video, how I'm going to see how things are going, and we'll see how everything is. Let's do that coming up after the break.
That's yours. One moment that's mine. Together we share the news all around us. Play a part in these changing times. You're hearing the picture, a part of each story. The times that we cherish, tears and the glory. Together we're making a difference. Cheer for our heroes together.
and welcome back to the 50 years of home video celebration as we cover my thoughts on Blu-ray and what are my interests right here in 2025. A lot of things have changed over the years, and many other things have changed over the years, from Betamax to VHS, then VHS to DVD, then DVD to Blu-ray, and for some people, Blu-ray to 4K Ultra HD or UHD Blu-ray. Things have changed over the last few months on home video markets, and that's mainly due to the fact DVD is starting to die out, and many people are still buying Blu-rays. You would think with people buying streaming, there would not be a niche for physical media, but physical media is strong as it's ever in 2025. And mainly thanks to people on the Blu-ray.com forums and many others on the AVS forums and all around the physical media community, we thank you. I've collected Blu-rays and stuff since 2016. I think the first Blu-ray I ever bought back then was Princess Mononoke back in 2016. So a lot of things have changed. I still collect Blu-rays. I don't collect DVDs as much anymore because if I'm gonna collect a movie, I'm gonna collect the Blu-ray because I want better picture quality and better sound quality as well. So where do we stand? Will physical media still be around in the next 50 years? Honestly, I don't know. Things could change in the next 50 years that we may not know what is stored for us. CES will probably be different. Everything will be different in the next 50 years. There is no such thing as CRTVs anymore. Everything is all LED, CLD, or whatever they're called in now. And especially the newer LEDs, the thinner LEDs or AI LEDs, basically the stuff Samsung is using for their LED technology, which is pretty cool and stuff. Personally, physical media is going to stay, I hope, and many others are going to hope that in the long run, physical media will stay afloat in the long run, no matter how much different it is. Anyways, that is it for me. Thank you for watching this video and this special presentation, and we look forward to the next couple of years we can do here on Horizons. Of course, we'll have some videos coming up at the end of the year, of course, and of course we also have the State of the Channel that will come up eventually soon, and then finally, the Advent calendars are coming back. It is not decided on which ones will be covered, the topics, but we will cover a few topics that we didn't cover in 2024. That's it from us here. Have a wonderful night, and from wherever you are, good day.